In a move that marks the end of a brief but eventful tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles, defensive end Bryce Huff is officially headed to the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles made the trade official on Monday, sending Huff to the NFC West powerhouse in exchange for a 2026 mid-round draft pick. The deal is still pending a physical, but barring any last-minute setbacks, it's a transaction that will reshape the defensive line dynamics in both Philadelphia and San Francisco. The trade comes as no real shock, as ESPN's Adam Schefter had reported late last week that both teams were actively working to finalize the deal. As part of the trade, Huff restructured his contract to facilitate the move, effectively lowering his financial burden in a way that benefits both his future team and the Eagles. In doing so, Huff reunites with former New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh, who is now calling the defensive shots in San Francisco as the team's defensive coordinator. This move is a win-win for both sides, but it also signals a shift in expectations for Huff, who will need to recapture the form that made him one of the most intriguing pass rushers in 2023. While the Eagles make some cap space in the deal, Huff is stepping into a 49ers defense that has been completely retooled, offering him a chance to thrive once again under a familiar system. Eagles clear cap space with Huff departure. The decision to part ways with Huff was not a spur-of-the-moment choice by the Eagles. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, Philadelphia stands to save a significant amount in cap space, around $7.7 million, by moving on from Huff at this stage in his contract. This makes it easier for the Eagles to continue building their roster, especially after the high-profile acquisitions they've made in recent seasons to maintain their status as Super Bowl contenders. Huff's time in Philadelphia, while ultimately short, was a mixed bag. The 26-year-old defensive end was signed to a lucrative 3-year, $51 million deal by the Eagles after a breakout 2023 campaign with the New York Jets. Coming off a career-high 10 sacks in his final year with the Jets, the Eagles expected Huff to be an explosive game-changer on their defensive line, adding another potent weapon to a unit that already boasted stars like Fletcher Cox and Hassan Reddick. However, Huff's performance in his only season with the Eagles didn't quite match the lofty expectations. In the 2023 season, Huff played in 12 games, but only recorded 2.5 sacks, well below his previous season's output. And when the Eagles made their deep postseason run, Huff's impact was virtually non-existent, failing to register a sack throughout the entirety of the playoffs. It became clear that while Huff had the potential, he hadn't quite found his groove in Philadelphia's defense. Now the Eagles are moving on, and the 49ers are hoping Huff can rediscover that magic. Huff returns to familiar territory with the 49ers. For Huff, this trade represents a return to his roots. Having spent the first 4 seasons of his career with the New York Jets, it was under Robert Saleh that Huff truly began to shine. Saleh, now the defensive coordinator in San Francisco, helped unlock Huff's potential, particularly in 2023 when Huff put together his most impressive season to date. The reunion could not come at a better time for Huff, who has shown glimpses of elite pass-rushing ability but has struggled to maintain consistency. Saleh's defensive system, which is heavily reliant on pressure and creating havoc up front, has already transformed the 49ers' defensive line into one of the league's most feared units. With the addition of Huff, San Francisco is hoping to add another weapon to an already talented defensive front, which is now undergoing some significant changes after the 2024 offseason. Nick Bosa, the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year, is back to anchor the defense, but the 49ers have lost some key pieces in the process. The team released veteran defensive tackles Javon Hargrave, Maliek Collins, and pass rusher Leonard Floyd. However, they didn't leave the cupboard bare, selecting a trio of young defensive linemen in the draft, including Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, and C.J. West. These younger players provide San Francisco with a mix of potential and depth, allowing the 49ers to develop a formidable defensive line core for the years ahead. San Francisco's defensive revamp. If Huff can recapture the form that made him a standout with the Jets, the 49ers have the potential to field one of the most disruptive and balanced defensive fronts in the NFL. Bosa will undoubtedly continue to attract double teams, which will allow Huff and other defensive linemen to have more opportunities to exploit one-on-one matchups. With the emergence of rising stars like Williams and Collins, San Francisco is positioning itself to be a dominant force along the defensive line for the foreseeable future.